So a little bit of a disclaimer for part 2 of my thoughts of Zenkaiger, which is should they adapt it, and that is I kind of gave an example of past Sentai season that kind of makes sense to be adapted. However, I gotta give credit to Deoxy360. He did a video about Simon Bennett actually explaining to the fan that there are certain Sentai that they're not gonna willing to adapt for, well, obvious reason, unfortunately, but you know, it is what it is. And throughout the video, I will be inserting the update for certain Sentai that, in my personal opinion, kind of makes sense to be adapted in the West, but I guess it is more than meets the eye. So with that, here it is, my second part of the Zekaigers thoughts, which is should that series be adapted in the US, and spoiler is probably not. Hello guys, NautoAisDx here, and this will be part 2 of my Zenkaigers segment. A response to Deoxy360 on his thoughts of should Hasbro adapt Zenkaiger, yes and no, and he said no, and believe it or not, to some extent I kind of agree with it because of the premise behind it and the concept. So before I continue, I'm not going to be giving my thoughts on the Hasbro, Toei, split up, whatever, because one is I'm not really into that story. I know there have been a lot of story about that one, like what's going on. Hasbro even said that they're going to go to a different direction with Power Ranger, going to be its own thing now, rather than trying to adapt it from Super Sentai. Again, I don't know the deal behind that. I'm not really an expert for it, so I'm going to stay away from that one, because again, Deoxy360 said people were upset about that, which is unfortunately, I know you don't like that narrative. You want the narrative of, oh, it's adapting Super Sentai, but again, just have to wait and see what happens. MorphCon 2022 next year, a year from now, probably gonna give a lot of information. So it's a long way. The next anniversary for Power Ranger is not going to be until 2023, so it'll be a long way about it. So with that said, do I think they should adapt Zenkaigers for Power Ranger? And whether it depends on your perspective, but I have to agree with the Deoxy360 and no. And again, he kind of gave the reason why, because it's very convoluted for what it is, especially with the numbers and then the number there, especially if you're going to use Sentai footage. Look what happened to Megaforce / Super Megaforce. And I kind of gave my thoughts about that one. Oh my gosh, it's just, it's horrible about it. It's horrible, I'm sorry. Saban really done bad with Zekaigers, which is unfortunate. I did email them about it, but nothing happened, and yeah, it was just, I'm sorry, it's horrible. Because they were trying to stick to only Power Ranger, but then all suddenly, they're using Power Ranger, that pre-Junior Ranger or Power Ranger, and they said because they're powered from a different planet. I mean, okay, but it didn't go through. I'm sorry. It's just bad. Oh my god. So anyway, that's the same reason with this one. I I don't mind Super Megaforce. Okay, I mean, not everyone do. People think it's the black sheep of the series. And I gotta call out Kei Hosagai, the actor in Japan who played Asuka for Zekaigers. Someone asked him about Super Megaforce. He said, yeah, it's okay, it's not that bad. And I enjoyed the series. I'm like, I don't know if you're telling the truth or you're just shilling, but I can tell you that not everyone liked it. Like, literally. Oh my gosh, so I'm sorry I digress about that one, but I gotta just kind of explain that if they're gonna go with the Super Megaforce route, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And of course, remember, it's Hasbro, so the 20 episode thing hopefully will be thrown out for this one. But again, we'll have to wait and see how they're gonna approach this, if they're gonna do it with Netflix. Again, just give it to the point. I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see that one. So yeah, like I said, it's convoluted. Second is, if you're gonna use Sentai footage, that's a lot of prop and costume you have to bring. Like I said, there's a reason why there's a lot of costume there, especially to the Zekaigers, because again, it was during the pandemic period, so they're trying to avoid a lot of people. behind the mask. I know the irony there, but it is what it is. And yeah, that's gonna be a lot of costume you're gonna bring it. So that's gonna be probably convoluted. And then again, each episode I'm gonna tell you when I was watching, they're very goofy. How do you translate that from a Japanese culture to a non-Japanese culture, Western culture? How's that gonna work? How's it gonna work with the bug thing or Japanese festival thing? I mean, yeah, that's what it is. I mean, it's every show to some extent about those things. They always put Japanese culture, and yeah, that's not gonna be easy, especially if you're gonna show it to English-speaking children. I know I cannot believe I used for kid Archon's quote there. Shame on me, but you get the idea that how you gonna convert, how you gonna explain it to a kid, and the answer is probably not, because it's gonna be confusing. So again, robot-wise, maybe again, like if they're gonna do something with Zenkaiger, it's gonna be original, like either an original story or animated. But if you're gonna use Sentai footage, that's gonna be very, very difficult. So I can agree what Deoxy said. It's just very difficult for what it is. Like I said, costume, the stories behind it. Again, it is possible in the long run if they're really smart, but we'll just have to wait and see, because you have to understand also, you gotta keep in mind with the budget. So, with that said, there are other Sentai, if they're gonna go to a adaptation route rather than like an original, because there was even story they said that they might do their own original Power Ranger, like Hyperforce or whatever. Again, make it animated, CG like that. It's a possibility. Like I said, go a different approach. I kind of like that a bit, but we'll have to wait and see what it looks like. So, but that if they go to an original route. But if they're gonna go to an adaptation route, like I said before, there's other Sentai that they can do that kind of makes sense. Some make sense, make not. So I'm gonna do a list here that Power Ranger did not adapt as of right now for this series, and I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give my thoughts on whether they work or not. So in my top of my head, I'm gonna try and remember this. I'm just doing this blank, so bear with it. First of all, Tokyo. Again, maybe possible Galaxy Railway, but it's probably gonna be slim, because in the West, definitely not a lot of people like trains. Unless it's a transformer or it turns into a robot, okay, probably. But the bottom line, the train motive probably not gonna work. So Tokyo, probably a slim chance there. Zouger, maybe it's a possibility for the anniversary. Yeah, it's animal, just like Wild Force, and it's blocks. Again, you think, well, black animal, that's weird. Well, what does kid likes that people were so like broke Twitter and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? Minecraft. So if this one can sort of like make a reference to a Minecraft aspect thing, block, Minecraft world, whatever, and maybe an original character, it's a Minecraft type character, it's like blockish, it's a possibility. So, but again, I don't know what they're gonna call it, like Cuvivore Force Power Ranger, whatever. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. So, Zouger, possibility. Definitely a possibility, but not high. This next one's gonna be very high. Lupin versus Patra Ranger. Another high one. I did watch that series. The story was actually dark, not goofy. I mean, maybe a little bit, not like Zekaigers goofiness. That's also a possibility. Problem is, cops and robber. And if you know the events of happening in real life in 2020 and so on, not all people like cops. I know I'm not gonna get there, but there's gonna be some concern. People are gonna make political out of nothing, and I don't think Hasbro want to deal with that. So even so, the cop and robber motif is kind of cool, in my opinion. That's probably not gonna be high. I know it doesn't make sense, but again, like I said, if it's impacting real life situation in politics, then you might want to just screw back there. So I kind of said that it kind of makes sense with cops and robber theme to make it Power Ranger. Say for the cop, sort of hero of justice, shining armor, while the thief, the Phantom Thief, because that's what Lupin Ranger is, sort of a Robin Hood, an honorable thief. However, unfortunately, according to Simon Bennett, that someone asked any chance of adapting Lupin Ranger versus Patra Ranger, and he said no, and for obvious reason, due to the recent event of what happened. Let's just say political issue, and if you've been following the story since 2020, you know what happened, especially in the West. So that kind of made the reference that Simon Bennett said. So it is unfortunate. In my opinion, kind of makes sense. I mean, Robin Hood versus Knights. That's kind of sort of like that. Modern Robin Hood, modern Knights, honorable thief, cop, justice of warrior, protector of the city. But of course, like I said, you got people who, they don't like the idea. So unfortunately, the chances of Lupin Ranger versus Patra Ranger being adapt, 0.
Q Ranger, Star Trek motif, space. Again, Star Trek, I can't think of another word there. Definitely very, very high Q Ranger because space, sci-fi motif, definitely. So they could do that as a anniversary for Power Ranger. So 30th anniversary, I think that's what it is.
And of course, the last one that I said that kind of makes sense to also adapt from Japanese to Western is Q Ranger because of the Star Trek motif. Everybody loves Star Trek. Again, unfortunately, Simon Bennett once again said not possible, and the reason for this one is the concept behind of Q Ranger. And the deal is there are actually more than 10 Rangers for that one. I mean, it is still a Star Trek motif even in Japan, but there are more than 10 characters in the series. So according to Simon Bennett, they said, well, how are we going to balance that in Power Ranger? It's not going to be that easy, trying to balance your character, time, whatever. Got to hire a lot of actors. And of course, if it's still quote-unquote a pandemic issue, not a lot of people. So they said, yeah, chances of that being adapted is slim to 0 once again. So yeah, it's unfortunate that the suggestion I said that kind of makes sense. Lupin Ranger and Q Ranger to be adapted. Yeah, I guess not. So again, like I said, in 2023, the Power Rangers fans gonna find out what is Hasbro's version. Is it really going to be another adaptation, or they're gonna do something different? Their own original Ranger, maybe animated series, maybe CG. Who knows? Maybe it's a Netflix thing, so you don't have to worry about like the 50 episode thing, 20 episode, whatever. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is an unfortunate that the one that I suggested didn't really work.
And then Kira Ranger. Possible. It could be race, but again, you're doing an adaptation. The problem with the premises, especially with Kira Ranger, his character is a very Elmo-ish, imaginary. Like, he imagines stuff, it becomes real. Again, how you gonna adapt that? I don't know. Again, maybe Speed Force, so probably gonna be slim to some extent in this one here. So again, I don't know about that one. And of course, like I said, Zekaigers probably gonna be slim there. So for me personally, again, it's just my personal opinion. It's either Q Ranger, it's gonna be probably the very top one. Second one for me is Zekaigers because again, there's not a lot of Sentai reference there. Story-wise, I don't think it's that goofy. Then, like I said, it goes back to Zekaigers. And my third one is Lupin Ranger versus Patra Ranger. Is again, like I said, if it's fictional, you can probably have some political issue that don't need to be there. But again, what can you do about it? So Tokyo Jur probably low. Nobody likes Strange to some extent. Not a lot of people. I mean, it is what it is. Kira Ranger, same thing. People like cars and racing. Daytona USA, but again, kind of slim there. Zenkaigers, definitely no. So yeah, so those are my thoughts and my response to Deoxys about Zekaigers being adapted to
Power Ranger, probably gonna be way slim. And if they do it, I mean, it'll be a long while, but if they do it, I'm gonna be shocked about it. Maybe they're gonna do some multiverse aspect, whatever. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. So the last part of this one, the third part, is Toei versus the fans. And I'm gonna explain why it's not a good idea to basically tell Toei or anyone about your passion as a fan about Super Sentai or Kamen Rider. So with that, I'll see you guys later.